Hello, world. So excited to be here. I don't know. I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe I'm a little quiet. I'm not sure. All right. This is a bad start. Should I start over or just go? Oh my gosh. Oh no, that was me. I have one viewer. It's me. That was me watching myself. But I left. So that should say 0. All right. Wanted to talk about Relateful in this research paper I'm working on and practice my tech, practice being on camera, practice not feeling weird, blah, blah, blah. So let's get into it. What is Relateful? Great, no viewers. That's what I was planning. Okay, so you can see my dog in the back there. Got a good shot, Rock. Zoom out a little bit. Very professional. There's the dog. Am I focused? This is a great live video. We're professional. All right, let's get into this. Wow, these glasses are not good reflectors, are they? Woo! Maybe I can do it. Still have some eyesight. All right, so let's go over this paper here. The premise is, the premise is that Relateful can save the world. That's the premise. So let's start at the beginning of what. There's this big industry, as you may all know about, I think now it's more called personal development. I'm not sure, spirituality. There's some beautiful work out there, beautiful teachings. I love watching videos on this still to this day. I gain insights and interesting ways to see the world often. I have my favorites. I have a interview with Eckhart Tolle from 2007 that I'm quite proud of and still working on that question I had for him. So check that out on a different channel. So the premise is that in most modalities of this multi-billion-dollar industry, there's something missing. And I can say from personal experience, I spent decades developing myself. And what happened was instead of having healthier relationships, I got worse. And I didn't wake up until I was like 40 going like, wait, I thought that I was supposed to cut better. I've done all this work. I've worked so hard. I've done weekends and seminars and retreats and silent meditations and lots of time, hours and hours and hours, 10-day retreats, weekend retreats after weekend retreat. Not to mention all the books on tape and then CDs. Oh yes, this is how long it goes back. Is anyone here watching that was born after cassettes were retired? I consumed and I learned and I loved and oh yes, this is the reality and the frames and the, yes, but then I would interact with my friends, family, partner, business acquaintances, coworkers, and the same stuff would happen and it was getting worse and worse and worse. Like, where did all my friends go? Why aren't I close? Why aren't I holding my nieces? And why am I not invited to this? Excuse me. So if I can go take a minute here, I have taken news broadcasting classes. You don't take a minute, but let's just read the paper that I have so far. I'm going to put a banner while I'm going to read this, and I'm going to put a banner. There's somewhere to do this. I'm learning. Nobody's watching, so I'm safe. I'm worthy of making mistakes. It's one of my favorite things to say in the world. Got too many banners. Here we go. Okay. Reading Roar research paper. I'm going to start doing that now. So, glasses on. Here we go. This might be read, this might be interacted with. If the camera goes out, I won't know because this is on the same, let me fix that, on the same view. New window, new walls, new doors. Okay, let's make sure this is back and I will know if my battery dies. All right. No idea if the sound is okay. I think it might be quiet, but I'm trying new things. Hopefully you can hear the wind and the birds. All right, let's read it. Relational awareness and the practice of relateful. Personal development trains inner awareness. Relatefulness trains relational awareness. That is quite a handful. It's very technical sounding, but I want to break it down and maybe that'll make sense. Beyond inner work, relational awareness and the practice of relateful, which I facilitate. You can find us online at relateful.com at any time. Personal development trains inner awareness. Relateful trains relational awareness. So, is this being, can we hear? Let me just check what's being heard. Because I don't see my audio going at all. Oh, there it is. I see it. Okay. So, back to the reading. Let me start over. Oh. Wrong voice. Okay. The practice of relateful. Beyond inner work. The practice. Let me just get the title. Okay. Reset. Back to one. Action. Beyond inner work. Relational awareness and the practice of relateful. Personal development trains inner awareness. Relatefulness trains relational awareness. It's making my screen bigger. Can I do it one more time? Cut, reset. Beyond, okay, I won't sing it. Beyond inner work, relational awareness and the practice of relateful. Personal development, one more time, reset, back to one, background, action. Beyond inner work, relational awareness and the practice of relateful. Personal development trains inner awareness. Relatefulness trains relational awareness. By Shara Joycry. This is going in. Roar, a research in applied relatefulness, journal submission. Beyond inner work, relateful, relational awareness, and the practice of relateful. Personal development trains inner awareness. Relateful trains relational awareness. It might sound strange at first, but we'll get into it. Abstract. Personal development has grown into a massive global industry, 40 to 50 billion in 2024, with millions of people engaging in meditation therapy, retreats, breath work, and other modalities aimed at emotional healing and personal growth. These practices often cultivate powerful insight and personal transformation. Yet, much of the human challenge and growth occurs not in solitude, but in relationship. When people return from transformative experiences to their everyday interactions with partners, colleagues, and communities, the clarity they experienced internally can become difficult to maintain within the complexity of live human interaction. Relatefulness can be understood as a practice that addresses this gap by bringing awareness directly into the relational experience rather than focusing solely on the inner experience. Relatefulness invites participants to observe sensations, triggers, perceptions, and shifts. I'm going to change that word. It's more than observe. In relational connection as they arise. Where did my mouse go? Okay. Pause. Pause break. Pause. I'm very new at all of this. I'm like a child joining the internet for the first time. What happened to me? So yeah, I'm on a Word document and I want to change this back into editing mode. Why can't I do that? And there's a fly. Oh, this is gonna happen. They come right in. There's a way to make this mode. There we go, editing. Okay, thank you. This is what I'm doing. I'm editing live. Nobody cares. Okay, so let's go back. Relatefulness invites participants to experience, notice, be with sensations, triggers, perceptions, and shifts in relational connection as they arise during real-time interaction with others. In this way, it offers potential mechanism in which insights cultivated in inner transformational practices may become embodied within the dynamic and often activating context of relational life. This paper explores relatefulness as a relational awareness practice that may help integrate inner transformation with the realities of live human interaction, potentially extending and stabilizing the effects of personal development practices within everyday relationships. Which I can go into personal stuff, but let's just do the paper. Let's see. Introduction. The rise of inner work. Woo! Inner... there goes my camera. All right. That might be the battery. Let's see. Oh, we're back. All right. Well, it goes 10 minutes until it doesn't know it's being used. Okay. Back to the paper. Introduction. Chapter 1. The rise of inner work. Inner awareness is wildly trained. And wildly trained. Inner awareness is wildly trained. Relational awareness is not. Relateful provides a way to practice it. Over the past decades, personal development has expanded across therapeutic, spiritual, and coaching traditions. Practices such as meditation, yoga, psychotherapy, breath work, visualization, etc., and so on, help people explore consciousness, regulate their nervous systems, and work with emotional patterns. These approaches primarily cultivate awareness within the individual. These practices can produce profound insights, clarity, peace, forgiveness, and emotional releases. Entire industries have emerged around facilitating these experiences through retreats, workshops, coaching programs, online videos, and courses. Group experiences can feel especially powerful. Sharing a meditation, a breakthrough, or even witnessing someone else's transformation can create a deep sense of connection and aliveness, something many people are hungry for in modern life. Yet, through the rise of this inner work, many of us don't realize something is missing. Personally, for decades, this was my life. I was deeply immersed on a path to enlightenment. It always seemed so close, just one more seminar, workshop, retreat, another 100 hours of books on tape, or one more weekend away. At one point, I started calling myself a self-help addict, often, half seriously, wanting some kind of cure like a 12-step program for enlightenment chasing. The term self-help isn't as common now. Books aren't on tape anymore, not even CD, but the theme is the same. We call it personal development. It's personal, not interpersonal. Looking back, I can see something I couldn't see then. Alongside becoming more self-aware, I was also becoming more self-focused. There was so much time, sincerity, dedication, yet I couldn't see the self-absorption growing. There was a subtle, sometimes not so subtle, sense of superiority. I felt more evolved than people who couldn't see their patterns. I became very good at noticing my patterns after the fact. Like a superpower, I could own my mistakes, explain the why, and apologize after the fact. And often I was even admired. I felt authentic, connected to my truest voice. For example, when I expressed my authentic truths, I often didn't take any responsibility for how it landed. I do apologize to so many people. I am so sorry. And the viewfinder button is being weird. Yes, let's get back to this. For example, when I expressed my authentic truth, I often didn't take into consideration other people. I'm going to write that down. And let's go into this as take into consideration other people. And let's keep reading. I often didn't take responsibility for how it landed. Some of my training reinforced this. There's no like in my paper. Some of my training reinforced this. If someone reacted negatively, that was their work. Ultimately, deeply developing beliefs that authenticity was more important than other humans around me. I want to pause here and say that this is true, and there was this thing about learning about taking responsibility for your emotions, being at cause of the situation, not blaming, not being a victim. But that had a flip side of I could just be my whatever I was in the moment, know-it-all, judgmental, righteous, maybe even too much love when it wasn't appropriate or welcome. It doesn't have to all be negative, but it was no sense for the other. No, how is their nervous system receiving my nervous system? There was no skill set in all those hours and all that training of how there's actually another person. And I got really good at being myself, but I got really good at not having a lot of friends and having dysfunctional relationships. All right, back to the paper. Whew. Ultimately, deeply developing beliefs that authenticity was more important than other humans around me. I could feel clear, grounded, even peaceful on my own. Add another person with their emotions, reactions, reality, and suddenly it was a whole different game. Despite these endless trainings, my relationships were getting worse. I lost connection with people I cared about. I had incredible insight, but not the skill to stay aware in a relationship. This is not unique to my experience. This isn't unique to my experience. Many people began to feel distant from others who weren't in the last workshop, sometimes trying to recruit them to their teacher or system just to feel understood. A person may feel calm during meditation, but be reactive during a disagreement. I don't like that sentence. A person may feel calm during meditation. Why does the viewfinder button keep doing that? What is that viewfinder? A person may feel calm during meditation, but reactive during a disagreement. Someone who has done years of therapy may still feel triggered by a partner, colleague, or family member. As Ram Dass said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. This points towards the gap in personal development landscape, the difference between cultivating inner awareness, internal awareness, and remaining aware while relational dynamics unfold. That's chapter 1. So to elaborate on that a little bit more depth, something about boundaries, but it's different than boundaries. It's I'm going to bring all of me, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. I'm going to bring this me as I am now without any consideration for you being another being with your own things and your own worries and your own life and your own boundaries, basically. So I guess I go back to the paper. I could babble about this forever. The relational gap. And is there a way to see everything full screen? Okay. Chapter 2, the relational gap in personal development. What's missing is, I should make the screen a little bigger. What's missing is the recognition and, computer. What's missing is the recognition that even deep spiritual insight doesn't necessarily translate into ease with others. And the path forward isn't another breakthrough. It's a space to actually practice being in human relationships. So the argument here is that most modalities in this multi-billion-dollar industry do not include practicing being in relationship with other humans. Back to the paper. Even when group retreats generate powerful feelings of connection or cohesion, participants are usually engaged in the same activity together, meditating, listening to a teacher, or following a guided process. They haven't practiced their insights while actually relating. In real-time interactions, things move fast. Subtle facial expressions, tone of voice, perceived judgments, or shifts in attention can activate emotional and physiological responses. People may be able to recognize a pattern later, but not as it unfolds in live interaction with others. Where human relationships are dynamic and that's a hard sentence. People may be able to recognize a pattern later, but not as it unfolds in live interaction with others. Where human relationships are dynamic and unpredictable. And even if they are able to, they may have no tools to change their habits on the fly. It's not just that we don't notice, it's that even when we do, we're not equipped to stay with what's happening as it's happening. So we step out, reflect. We step out, reflect later, and learn slowly. We go to courses and workshops to become better humans, which usually includes wanting more meaningful, more connection and ease with others. But in those spaces, we're rarely in any real, messy, in the moment interaction. These aren't conflicting opinions, let's start all over. Wow. We go to courses and workshops to become better humans, which usually includes wanting more meaningful relationships, more connection, ease with others. But in those spaces, we are rarely in real, messy, in the moment interaction. There aren't conflicting opinions, different agendas, misunderstandings unfolding live. We are often on our best behavior or in a shared elevated state. Or in shared elevated states like meditation, yoga, transformation, and loving, empathetic connection. That's weird. And those experiences can be real and powerful, but they're not the same thing as practicing in real time. Like many, my search for growth began as an inward journey of understanding my own patterns and history. Early therapy helped me work through deep wounds, including the feeling of not being held as a baby. I learned to forgive my parents, understanding what they were working from the guidance available to them at the time. Oh, Dr. Spock. Why weren't you more like Spock on TV in Star Trek? I practiced meditations focusing on caring for the inner infant that had spent hours crying alone. Later, a landmark forum helped me navigate my divorce with more stability. I was able to take things less personally in what was at the time a very messy process. And yet, my patterns in relationship didn't fundamentally change. The next several romantic relationships still carried a lot of the same turmoil. While some of these tools brought temporary relief, they didn't give me new ways of being in relationship. That work brought real insight, but insight alone didn't change how I showed up with other people, especially in emotionally activating moments. I could understand my patterns, but in the moment I was still inside them. What began to shift was practicing awareness while actually relating. That's the missing link. In relateful spaces, the emphasis shifts. Participants are not attempting to synchronize behavior or reach a shared emotional state. Instead, individuals remain rooted in their own experience while interacting directly with others. This means you can show up as you are, grieving, joyful, overwhelmed, excited, disconnected, and practice being with whatever is there, even if others are in completely different states. From this perspective, I say that twice, relateful doesn't replace other forms of personal development. It extends them. This time we're done. Yep. It brings awareness into the domain where many people experience their greatest challenges, real-time interaction with others. Emotional reaction, I'm having a real-time interaction with this fly, I don't know if you can see it. Emotional reactions become visible earlier. Interpretations can be held with more curiosity. Moments of tension can be met with awareness instead of automatic reaction. And this is only part of it. There's so much more that emerges in the process, things that are difficult to access alone. In this way, relational awareness practices help bridge the gap between personal insight and relational behavior. Relatefulness is a practice. Relatefulness as a practice. Relatefulness is a relational awareness practice that explores what unfolds when human beings interact in real time. In this sense, it functions like a laboratory, except the experiments are endless because every moment and every interaction is new. Relatefulness creates a space to notice how perception, emotion, interpretation, and connection shift as we relate, how the way we meet those moments shapes our relationships, both in the practice and in everyday life. In this laboratory, we can try new things and see impact immediately and feedback in real time, which allows learning to happen in much faster than reflection alone. For example, I was able to experiment with things I had never shared for decades in personal development work. Like naming internal experiences I would usually hide in personal spaces where there's often an unspoken pressure to be on your best behavior, to be evolved, aware, kind, and quietly hide. But instead, in Relateful, I started contacting these parts of me in real-time interaction. At first, it wasn't fun. I began sharing things like feelings of superiority and judgment and witnessing the impact in real time, seeing faces shift, feeling the effect. Something clicked. I had seen those faces before, even when I kept my judgment silent. That part of me had always been there, it just hadn't been spoken. Through actual expressing it, I began learning how to be with it rather than hide it. I stayed in the practice, kept showing up, experimenting, and naming things like I'm noticing how much of me is in judgment and thinking it's better than others, and I can see it's not true, but it's still here. Instead of hiding it, I started relating from there. Over time, judgment softened, not because I fixed it, but because I could actually see, feel it, and stay present with others at the same time. That old sense of superiority slowly gave way to something much simpler. We are all human. From here, the practice took me into places of feeling the other, being with what it's like to be someone else. And this also helped find more places This is something I've seen consistently both in myself and across many participants, across a wide range of state, from anger, shame, and everything in between. One fun example is boredom. Anyone bored? Relateful spaces aren't always exciting. In fact, a lot of deeper shifts happen in subtle moments, and for many people, especially those used to high-intensity, conflict-driven dynamics, this can feel boring. I like this. If you're used to a dopamine hit from dysfunction, calm can feel like nothing is happening, but it turns out nothing is really something. I love that. When someone brings boredom into the space, I'm noticing I feel bored right now. It can impact the whole group. Instead of quietly disengaging or managing the moment, something real enters the room. Others may notice reactions, taking it personally, feeling rejected, or becoming curious. The moment becomes alive. Who knew? Staying with boredom in this way can open up unexpected depths. Participants often begin to feel contact with what was hidden beneath it: longing, desire, fatigue, grief, or even a sense of something's missing. As that unfolds, people tend to bring more of themselves, more honesty, more depth, more discovery for themselves and for the group. And once again, this shift isn't from fixing the experience, but from bringing it into relationship, where it can be seen, explored, and responded to in real time. And in life, states like shame, boredom, anger, or grief are often ones we avoid the most. This isn't about bypassing them. This is about being with them. In many settings, there isn't space for this kind of honesty. But in life, in real life, these states are happening all the time. Relateful creates a space where they can be seen, spoken, and explored in real time and with practice. It also completely changed how I relate to anger. All right, I'm going to pause 30 minutes and start again.